into it, I have to shout out our friends at Idealist. If you're listening to this podcast, you already get it. Service matters, community matters, doing good matters. And Idealist is where over 40 million people have gone to turn that feeling into something real. Jobs, volunteer opportunities, ways to give back, right where you are. Don't wait. Go check out the link in the show notes right now. Explore the possibilities. And then, of course, come back for this incredible service story. Welcome to the AmeriCorps Connections podcast, where we lift up the stories of alumni who were moved by a service year and are still getting things done for their communities today. So thank you so much for tuning in. And today I'm here with Tavon Johnson, who's a career counselor with Milwaukee Job Corps. Shout out to Addie Lipton out there in Milwaukee. We'll have to make the actual 3D connection between the two of you. So Tavon's AmeriCorps story actually spans several terms. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your term started with Great Oaks Charter School, tutoring students and coaching basketball. Then you served at the Choice program at UMBC in Baltimore County, Maryland, where you were doing job coaching and workforce development for youth, supervising young employees and supporting them through interview prep and resume writing. From there, became a VISTA leader with Campus Compact Mid-Atlantic, which is now Transform Mid-Atlantic, taking on more of a larger program management at a bigger scale, hitting the region. So by the time you landed with Milwaukee Job Corps as a career counselor, it seems like you'd already spent years figuring out how to help young people find their footing in the workforce. And it's really not a stretch to say that AmeriCorps may have built the exact skills that you needed every day, for what you're doing. So I would just say, Tavon, take us through, first of all, thanks for being here. And I want to start with that stretch of your service year. What kept pulling you back into service term after term after term? And correct me if I got any of those service terms incorrect. So welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, Nikki. I appreciate it. I am, apparently I love to get things done, right? So that is a lot of the rationale for why I decided to come back so many times. But I think initially with the Great Oaks Charter School in particular, I just have a passion for young people. I always have. I'm the oldest of 8, so I think I've kind of been someone who just had a passion for young people my whole life, and I just wanted to be someone who I feel like I needed at that particular time in that middle school, that earlier high school. The Great Oaks Charter School is a charter school network, and I want to say, if I remember correctly, they go from grade 6 all the way through grade 12. So that kind of transition period into youth and young adulthood. I'm a big basketball fan. I've played basketball, rec basketball, and still watch a lot of basketball and sports in general. But connecting with youth and young adults, and especially in the school setting, helping them with their emotional regulation, that tutoring, that mentoring, that guidance, that on the sports level, but also in the classroom has been super important for me. And then beyond Great Oaks Charter School, definitely wanted to reach out and support my own hometown in Baltimore. That where I was born and where I was raised, and definitely have a lot of passion and a lot of love for in my hometown, in my home city. So could not have done AmeriCorps not in Baltimore. Just wouldn't be able to live with myself had I decided not to go back and go back home in that way. And again, now doing a little more program management and some other grant management sort of things from a career standpoint, I would definitely agree. I think those AmeriCorps service terms have definitely built the foundation for me to be able to be more confident in my own professional capabilities and do the grant management and look at all the different skills that I've learned, keeping a cool head with a lot of things going on. Also, just looking at working with different people, different backgrounds, different mindsets, different language barriers, those are the cultural barriers. So a lot of great benefit to AmeriCorps for sure.
I want to circle back to what you had said about number one being the oldest of 8. That's something, and also that you really appreciate coaching, and it's interesting because I did a lot of coaching when my kids were younger, and then their skills outskilled me, and so I had to move them along to other more skilled coaches. But number one with that, I didn't realize that coaching was actually volunteering until I did my AmeriCorps service year and I was able to put that on my timesheet. I always joke and say I just thought it was good parenting. I had to show up to practice. I knew a little bit something about soccer. So I'm like, I'll lead the kids around. But I honestly was doing that role of mentoring, that role of coaching on the field, but then also just in personality and different sorts of areas with with youth. And I always reflect back to a coach that I had in middle school and high school who coached me in volleyball. And she was really the first person that really tapped me into number one, she introduced us to meditation and visualization in sports. And at the time, I didn't appreciate what she was doing until decades later when I was like, oh, she was having us manifest the game so that when we got onto the court, it was just muscle memory in our brain. And number two, she had us volunteer. We had special needs programs and we brought them into some of our practices and we played volleyball with them. So I think sometimes when we do what we might consider mundane volunteering of just not, I shouldn't just say just coaching, but coaching and those types of things, we really is an opportunity for us to share values of service and community engagement and values of humanity on a like a level playing field to bring it back to coaching. So I don't know if you want to just touch on that real quick, just your thoughts around coaching and influencing youth.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great point. I think coaching is super important just in terms of just being a role model, just being the proverbial adult in the room. Funny, really quick story. So I want to say I started around 2017 with the coaching at Great Oaks Charter School. As you mentioned, strictly volunteer. Right, I was able to get my service hours in that way. But it's funny, that was around the time Steph Curry. Like, Stephen Curry was a really big deal in the NBA. And
That's fun.
everyone wanted to be like Stephen Curry, including people who were the biggest kids on the team, who should have been a little bit more like Shaq and a little bit less like Steph Curry, but they wanted to be like Steph Curry. So I remember very vividly having to teach and redirect and continue to communicate to them about needing to be in the paint, closer to the rim, taking easier shots, and not half court heaves like Steph Curry. But everyone wanted to be like Steph Curry at the time, and he's still kind of rolling it as we speak. So very kind of interesting tidbit about coaching, and sometimes that means giving people like the encouragement to seek what it is and pursue what it is that they're really good at, but also not so much that we're being negative about the thing that they're not as good at. All right, that kind of that push pull of encouragement slash you kind of redirection, if you will.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Like, yes, and sort of thing, right? Let's take that passion and then let's give you a little bit of fluidity with that and then
Yep.
let's like, get a little closer to the basket. So as we're thinking about getting closer to the basket and getting in the paint a little bit, tell us a little bit about what you did at the choice program, which was at UMBC. And so folks that don't know what UMBC is, University of Maryland, Baltimore Community College, I should know because that bottom black frame is a degree from. So what did you do at the choice program?
Yeah, man, the choices program is really sad. I had not known about it honestly, initially when I first came close to being able to apply and interview and ultimately be selected for the program. But what they do is unique. What they do is a myriad of things around the workforce, youth workforce development sphere, if you will, and that includes job coaching, that includes mentoring, that includes case management, that includes teaching job skills, those sort of things. And what I did specifically, I was one of maybe 4 or 5 AmeriCorps members there, and I worked with that program under the leadership of Eric Ford and some other folks over there at Choice and at UMBC. And what we tried to do is make sure we connected with youth, young adults throughout the Baltimore region and be able to put them in positions of being successful. And so that included recreation therapy, that included again, case management, that included partnerships with University of Baltimore, the cafe there at the law school, that included partnerships with the Orioles and Camden Yards and working the smoothie stand downtown in the harbor. So as I'm talking about, I'm currently in Milwaukee and definitely miss home a little bit. So I'm reminded of how good the smoothies were and how much
We're,
fun we
we're
had.
No,
Yeah.
9 hours away. Come on
I know,
down.
right? I know, and I've driven before, and that takes a little bit longer. We'll see. I might come in town very soon. It's been too long, but yeah, I love the choice program. It was really solid for me. I got a lot of skills there as well, just in terms of connecting with youth and young adults in a different, more authoritative space, but also not so authoritative that I wasn't able to kind of connect with them. Being from Baltimore, being a Baltimore native, growing up in communities that look exactly like where they're coming from, whether it be East
Mhm.
Baltimore, West Baltimore. We also know very much how much of a negative connotation the city still has around the Y and some drug stuff, and some crime stuff. But man, there's a lot of good people doing a lot of great work in and around Baltimore, and it seems like the choice program is one of the leaders in that space.
Yeah. What was something? And I agree. I think when you pan out, and when you see what the Ravens are doing too in the community and giving back, because I know that there. I think there's a little bit of a partnership there, and and I kind of had prepped you for this question when we spoke last week. What was something during the choice program when you were working with these young adults that you couldn't unsee, and you you saw the systemic issues that just made it more difficult for folks to take advantage of opportunities or put themselves in a space to be able to take advantage. Could you share with us something during your service year that made you go, "Oh, damn, like we need to take care of this"?
No, absolutely. I think like two things really stick out, and I say two, right? Like a Baltimore native says two. Uh, so two things stick out. One of which was we were in the trailer in Cherry Hill, doing like a case management kind of plan to care sort of meeting, if I remember the correct like nomenclature. But we were having that meeting, and we all of a sudden hear a really loud boom from the outside, and apparently it is what it was a person, I presume, from the neighborhood having very clearly a mental, not that I don't play one on TV, but very clearly having a mental episode of being distraught and kind of just not in their right headspace. And they were banging out every single car windshield
Oh
parked
my.
in the parking lot where the trailer park where we were having a meeting. And I think they got maybe to like 3 or 4 cars in. Um, I think my car might have been like the fifth car in the line, and we had just accosted him verbally, and he kind of like ran off. And very much looked like a young person. Could maybe 21, 22. I want to say I know we kind of service up to 24, if I remember correctly, at the choice program, but should have been in the program. Should have been having
Mhm.
the ability to get into some services and having some kind of support. And for whatever reason, structural, systemic, whatever it might have been, personal, familiar, whatever it was not connected with anyone very clearly and did not have that support. And very much, yeah, like the African proverb says, right, the one who was shunned from the community, from the neighborhood, will oftentimes lash out in the neighborhood and have that sort of like response. So that's one thing that really stuck out to me and just reconfirmed my need, well, my thought that that program was very much of a need in the city, and really should have been kind of like mirrored throughout the other similar communities throughout the whole nation, right? LA, Oakland, Milwaukee, Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other part, the other I say situation probably was, I want to say a day that we were in Camden Yards and we were working a smoothie stand inside Camden Yards, and we were discussing about work, and I'm talking with a young person. I forget the young person's name now, but they were one of the leads on shift, and they were talking about like how difficult it was for them to find unsubsidized employment. The choice program has to subsidize employment for the youth and young adults in the program. And they were really struggling trying to figure out how to get an interview, how to kind of like move up in the world. And I remember when I was his age, it simply was not that difficult. I've been working
Mm.
since 14, 15 years old. And obviously if I'm a job owner, right, if I have this program and that program, or this store, that store, I'm probably gonna hire the 35-year-old who need to have the lights turned on every month, who need to put food on the table for his family. It seems to me very difficult, and as years wane on for youth and young adults and teenagers in particular to find gainful employment and be able to be given those sort of early formative experiences within the workforce that they need in order to be successful, for later on. And it seems to me that the choice program is one of those programs that was able to do those sort of things for those young people. But we definitely need more of those for sure. And I think the more we have, the more better off our youth, young adults will be.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If this conversation is activating something in you, don't just let that feeling sit there. Go check out Idealist. They've connected over 40 million people with opportunities to serve, give back, and do good. Whatever that looks like for you, go explore. And the link will be in the show notes. And now back to the episode. Those are such strong examples, and thank you so much for sharing those. And I think about your first example. When I was director of Volunteer Maryland, we had programs. We had at least 28 programs throughout the state of Maryland, and that we were doing things from food security, supporting people with food, with lack of food, to environmental projects, to coaching and mentoring and stuff. And the impact that our members would make year after year after year was staggering. But the customer base was always there. They were always there. And I think on that human needs work that we do can be so challenging, because we do see those folks that don't have access to the program, and all we want to do is bring them in. And I feel like sometimes we just can't get all the people all the time, all at once, all the needs that they need. But we have to keep trying, and we have to keep bringing people closer in and expanding our in groups to include some folks that might feel like they're on the out groups.
Sure.
And then I would say also to your second example, as far as just the wraparound services, and with AI disrupting jobs that are people coming right out of college or youth, like you said, going 13, 14. I remember walking into like my local Blockbuster and applying the application when I was 17 years old, and then just, giving it to them and being like, I can interview right now. And that is just not how things happen anymore. But I do think that folks like you and I that are in a different era of our career, and I would also challenge anybody who's listening to this podcast, or anybody that's been on the guest of the podcast, because you have a sphere of influence. How can we open some doors for people? How can we provide support and mentoring as folks kind of get their foot in the door? So I don't know if you want to reflect to any of that, but I think that those examples are things that you really see when you're in these human services programs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And currently in Milwaukee at Job Corps and some other things that I've done. But in addition to that, I definitely see very similarly in other locales like Milwaukee, where I am now, where that human services is definitely something that needs a lot more money, a lot more funding, a lot more expertise. It's not, I mean, passion is one thing, but I think being, trauma informed and data informed and making good sound decisions and putting people in positions that can connect with other great people who have the know-how, who have the connection to the community to make those improvements, I think is super important.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to reflect on at UMBC, or do you want to move on to your yet next term of service?
No, I think let's go to the next one. I have a lot of good things to say about my next opportunity with AmeriCorps as well. Yeah, so yeah, that was something. If we remember, that was right at the onset of COVID. So a lot of what I remember over there, I know it's not called Mid-Atlantic anymore, but Transform was just how like wonky that service term actually ended up being, just in terms of everything being remote. And I'm super, super like grateful for the opportunity to connect with them. I did a lot of great grant work, a lot of the program management, a lot of building out systems and helping out with the resource development, those sort of kind of areas with my VISTA leader term, and connecting with other VISTAs and further developing my coaching skills and my mentoring and like guidance and those sort of things. And I still use those things today for sure, but I just remember specifically like how wonky it ended up being, even toward the end of choices as well. Now that I think about it, where the world shut down and we still were kind of like randomly doing, still getting things done, albeit, virtually, and just wondering if anything would become normal ever again.
Yeah, and that transition, interesting enough, I was in the governor's office during that transition, and choice was underneath our portfolio. So, for folks that are new to this whole AmeriCorps world, there's 52 commissions across the state. 52, 54? I forget now. Holy smokes. But Puerto Rico and Guam and Washington, D.C. have commissions, and commissions get about 80 to 90% of AmeriCorps funding from the Corporation for National Community Service, which is the government agency that is under Health and Human Services and that sends the money out. And then the commissions send that money into programs within their communities and their states because they have a better idea of where that money needs to go instead of the federal government. But Choice was one of those programs. And inside the commission, we were trying to figure out, like, how do we help our programs make this transition in COVID? But what was so cool is that our programs had their shit together. Like, they were like, we're just going to go virtual, and y'all were trained, and the programs were figuring it out. And then we were just figuring out the dollars and cents of everything. So I feel you on, little did we know that our paths were going to cross. And I was in the governor's office and you were in M&T Bank serving smoothies, which I probably would have rather been there, to be honest with you. But
Fun times.
yeah, I feel that to say too. So when you moved from Choice, which was more of a direct service where you were working with the young adults, your VISTA leadership, which is Volunteers in Service to America, that program, you were actually working with other VISTA members who were doing the work at their site. So you were kind of like, we can't use the term supervisor, but you were like a peer mentor support for folks that were also going through a wonky year. So talk to us a little bit how you were going through your own experience, and then those VISTA members who were out in the field were going through their experience and trying to deal with the pandemic and also trying to still squeeze some juice out of this service year. So give us some reflections on the good, bad, and ugly of that service year.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great point, Nikki. I think for me, with that time period, working with the other members, the VISTA members in that way, a lot of it is boiled down to reviewing progress reports and like compliance stuff, and timesheets, kind of looking at those sort of things. But really, it's the human element. Like, how are you doing? Are you checking it? Are you taking time off? Are you getting the supervision that you need? Are you getting the mentoring that you need? I know you're at this college or that college or that site, and I know everyone is super busy, but I'm reaching out to see how you're doing. If there's anything I can do, if there's anything Mid-Atlantic can do or Transform as it's known now. And I think that was well received at that. Usually, and in a lot of ways, that became my way to further develop relationships later on in my career, because I was able to connect with people through this kind of like share like trauma response and trauma bond in terms of while going through the same thing at the same time, and while we're doing different things in different places, we're definitely wanting to connect and wanting to kind of re-engage. And we did weekly Zoom calls, and we kind of did some cool stuff like book clubs and those sort of things. And it just became a really cool like environment, really cool like culture, really cool like network of connection in that way. And I think I'm actually still connected with a few of those people I connected with back then to this day. And I think just seeing their growth and seeing like some of the things that they've been able to do more recently, I can definitely draw a through line right between what they were doing then and what they're doing now, the same way I came for myself. So that's really cool to see.
What if microwave popcorn didn't have to be full of chemicals, plastics, and mystery ingredients? Conventional microwave popcorn bags are lined with toxic chemicals, artificial flavors, and trans fats. You deserve better. Meet Pops Up Popcorn, a family-made, chemical-free microwave popper from Somersworth, New Hampshire. Just pop in non-GMO kernels, pop it in the microwave, and watch it pop up. No plastic, no silicone, no junk. One box pops 120 cups of delicious air-popped popcorn. Then season it your way. Vermont maple, buttermilk ranch, sweet sriracha, and more. All made with real ingredients. Get your popcorn and seasoning today by heading over to popzup, that's popzup.com, and at checkout, enter code Nikki10 for 10% off your order. That's Nikki10, NICKI10 for 10% off your order. Snack clean, snack smart, Pops Up Popcorn, the better way to pop. I feel like that experience may have just been the direct line into what you're doing now, because you support members, but you also have to have a relationship with their service sites. So it's almost like you're doing you're doing similar work, but you're not a member anymore. You're a staff person, and we
Yep.
don't use the S word when we refer to refer to AmeriCorps members or VISTA volunteers. So tell us about that connection. And uh, did you leap from transfer Mid Atlantic to Milwaukee? Was that your big jump?
Yeah, absolutely. So what had happened was post-COVID. Well, was it post-COVID? I don't know. Maybe COVID was weird again. So
Yeah.
at some point soon, I was able to garner a free ride to Marquette after my 2 education awards were matched. So I was super excited about that, and admittedly, that's a lot of my motivation for deciding to do AmeriCorps outside of wanting to be connected to community and do some good work, had been wanting to figure out a way to finance and pay for my furthering my education. So I took a bit of a 10-ish year gap between undergrad and grad school, and was
Yeah,
in
I don't think
between
we
time
could
did the
ever
AmeriCorps.
say AmeriCorps is like
No,
a gap year. That is not. That is
no,
a growth year.
it's a
We're
growth
just
year
gonna have to
then,
reframe
absolutely.
it. It's not a
No,
gap year.
no,
It's a growth
absolutely. That's
year.
a good point. That's good, and I might use that actually. That's a really good point.
Please
So yeah,
do.
after my growth years with AmeriCorps, I was able to use that and leverage it as a way to get into Marquette University. So that's why I ended up in Milwaukee. Again, initially it was virtual, but obviously everything became in person. And it was again right after Transform, right after the Mid Atlantic, that service time as a Vista leader, and there was a world of difference just being in a new community, new city, new sounds, new cells, new smells, new environment.
Yeah.
Had to get acclimated to being in Milwaukee, central time zone, like everything was just totally different. I've been outside of Baltimore before, but never been as far as Milwaukee until I decided to move here 4 years ago now, and I ended up wanting to still be connected to the AmeriCorps world in some way, somehow, and was able to do some networking, do some digging, and figured out a way to get reconnected this way as a sub-grantee staff person or staff member. And what I'm doing currently now is connecting with members and connecting with different host sites, and we're supporting members via recruitment and onboarding and member management through a sub-grantee in Wisconsin that supports the AmeriCorps grant and funding with the free and charitable clinics throughout the state of Wisconsin.
That's a mouthful, huh? Isn't it funny when people are like, so what do you do? And you're like, um, hold on to your seats. Because there's just such a big pendulum swing, right? There is
Yeah,
the compliance and grant management, but then there's the people aspect of it,
exactly.
which
Yeah,
actually coordinates with the compliance.
yeah,
So
precisely.
yeah, exactly. So can you tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about, again, where you see now in Milwaukee, a new setting, where you see these members making an impact and making a difference and maybe tackling some of these systems that really can keep people from taking on the best opportunities that are out there.
Sure, absolutely. I think a lot of the big impact that I've seen and that I continue to see is members getting connected to my program and other ones throughout the state of Wisconsin, but especially with my program in the health equity space, the social determinants of health, mitigating those health inequities related to folks being underinsured or uninsured in totality, and working or serving, I should say, in spaces where they're either at a free and charitable health clinic or they're maybe in a health department or maybe in a social service agency, and seeing the connectivity between that's what the policy says and what the law says about, you have to go to this place or this hospital for care and this, that, and that's fine. But again, there's a lot of folks that fall through the cracks. That program, my program that I run now, serves a lot of people throughout the state of Wisconsin that might have fallen through the cracks or might be susceptible to falling through the cracks. So that's where I see a lot of the big benefit and a lot of that big impact. And then on a personal note, for all my members, again, they're able to put some identity capital on their resume that says
Mm.
they work with a health coordinator, right? They've gotten the community health worker training. They've done, CDC training. They're working in tandem with a executive director, and they're learning the business of healthcare, the grants, the grant management, the finances, the budgeting, those sort of things. And eventually, a lot of them end up going to back to school, whether it be for MPH or med school or PA school, those sort of things. So I see a lot of big benefit to members themselves, but also obviously to the larger community.
Wow, that's super powerful. I wanted to ask you, when you were talking about some of the things that the members were doing, would you say that they're kind of like advocates for the community who are trying to work through the healthcare system?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of them do tabling events. A lot of them kind of connect directly with the community. We have visitors and state and national members. My visitors obviously aren't doing any direct services, but a lot of my state and national members are doing a lot of direct services that would include healthcare advocacy, that might include tabling events, that might include a whole host of different things to connect with the public directly. So yeah, I would definitely use the terminology as advocates for sure. I think it's very, very apropos.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until you don't know what you don't
Yep.
know. And the
Yep.
members are there to help folks say, I don't think you know this.
Yep.
And this is how we can get you through the system and get you into the healthcare system. And the other thing, if you wanted to expand, because this is something that I actually came out of my service year, and you use the term identity capital. I use social capital, people, your
Yep.
people power. It's the Rolodex that you have in your head. It's the value that you bring to people that you will carry with you from job to job to job to job, and nobody can take it away from you. And
Yep.
it is also the biggest return on investment as long as you keep investing in it and nurturing those relationships. And again, I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from my service year. Number one, that I could figure out how to have a program go from the ideation into that thinking sort of idea into how are we going to do this into implementation and then reflection. I didn't know that was a skill set that I had. And I didn't have the vocabulary for that either. But then the second thing that I think I really got from my service year and beyond is that identity capital. So you mentioned that some of these members they work side by side with the executive directors. They have and to me that's accessibility.
Exactly.
And that's where that distance is. And I think that's where a service year can help folks because it does give them accessibility where you might not get that if you go in as just a beginning
Mhm.
employee. Because it's like,
Definitely.
no,
Yep.
you're just doing the filing. But during a service year, it's like we have this person for 1 year. Let's get the most out of them. So speak a little bit to maybe how you prepare your sites to give that AmeriCorps member access to, basically like decision makers.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Yeah, we certainly coach the sites. I do specifically related to a few different areas. So we ask them, what problems do you have that you may not have the time or the
Mm,
the mental bandwidth to solve. What are some areas that you feel like are gaps in your service delivery, right, or grant compliance, those sort of areas? And we ask them to utilize the AmeriCorps members in such a way, obviously build it out from a project description or VAD, but utilize those members in such a way that they can get that access, right, get that accessibility, get those connections being done, and you can utilize their skill set, utilize their youth, their passion, their drive, their energy to mitigate those issues, right? Solve those problems or develop systems that would solve those problems for later on. That sustainability. So we definitely coach those site supervisors and the whole sites on doing those sort of things. We also tell them up front and say, hey, they're looking for a mentor. They want to
yeah.
get to point A, B, C within the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. What is it they can learn from you? We're adamant about the necessity for, it's not just compliance and approving timesheets. Right? It's supposed to be a relational driving benefit of a relationship such that the members is getting some kind of benefit in terms of what they're learning and that identity capital, social capital, as you might call it, but also the site and the community, the larger community can benefit from having a model of that connection, right, with AmeriCorps. So I think a lot of ways there's a lot of cross pollination, a lot of like benefit, mutual benefit on both sides of the coin. But I think most of our site supervisors in particular have been in the healthcare space for quite some time. They're very knowledgeable and they're very willing and open and really excited, honestly, to connect with our members and coach and mentor and guide and write recommendation letters for med school and grad school and those sort of things. So there's also that's what I love to actually see. I love to see my members post first year, second year, whatever they decide to do. Sometimes they come back for 2 and 3 years, but I love to see them get to that professional space of being able to kind of say, looking back, I learned so much, and this has really helped me get to where I am now, whether it be in med school or NPH or grad school or some other things. Law school, we've had people go to law school after our
Wow.
program as well. So yeah, just a lot of benefit in that way. And then obviously I'm an advocate for AmeriCorps just personally, but I think just what I'm doing now, I think I definitely see the connection between the support that AmeriCorps does, but also the support that I think members give to their community and their host sites in particular.
That was such a great example. I don't think I could have summed up that as well as you did. That I do like how you asked the question to the supervisors, where's the gap in service delivery and where do you not have the bandwidth to focus your attention? Because those thinking through those things takes time. It's not just like 2 hours. Oh, we can fix it this way. I think we can fix it this way. Do we have the systems, resources? What kind of tools do we need? And for a service member to be able to spend time on that is so valuable for sites. I wanted to ask, since you were in this groove of everything that the members that you're working with get out of their service year, or you want them to get out of your service year, and you did point out that we want to make sure we're supporting the programs, but we also want the people that are AmeriCorps members to get something as well. When you think about your 3 terms of service, and where you are now, and you kind of zoom out, because I feel like your journey is similar to mine in a way of you were in the trees fighting the twigs during your service year, and then you got up above the canopy, and you can kind of see the impact of the whole ecosystem of national service. So when you think about your service year, what's something that surprised you that you took away with, either both personally, professionally, just something that you didn't think that you were going to go into these 3 terms of service with this different perspective? If you could pull that out of thin air. I don't know if I gave you that question in advance.
No, that's quite all right. I think one thing that does surprise me, it really still surprises me now, honestly, is like just how much the landscape is different now. I remember
Mm,
historically, like there used to be a lot of political will across the aisle. I know we're not a political podcast, but there used to be a lot of political will across the proverbial political aisle that says this is a benefit and we should be doing this and really we should be pouring more money into it. I also distinctly remember my master's thesis and doing some research around some notion that national service should be in some version or two mandatory for high school graduation even. So I think there seems to be a lot of things that change between now and then. And I just don't exactly know like why that was the case outside of just particularly a bad case here, a bad case there. But it seems to me that's something that was super surprising that I had not known about the program before I got into it. And I only got
yes.
into it really because I wanted to get away from home for a second. I didn't go to school undergrad outside of Baltimore, but I wanted to get away from Baltimore for a second. And that was my opportunity to get away from Baltimore. So I went to school, quote unquote, away from home through AmeriCorps and came back. But yeah, I just did not know as the years waned on, did not anticipate there being so much dearth now of authenticity, right, political will to keep the program moving and keep the program in good standing.
That's I think I think I told you to give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that is the ugly that we find when we are in above the canopy or in the canopy, is that this program could be lost to future people who could take advantage of it. And I know we've been talking about young people, but this program spans all the way up to retirees who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s. AmeriCorps Seniors provides an opportunity for our seniors who are 55 and older, or 60 and older, to continue to participate in their community and just get in an organized way, which we don't have to
Sure,
always do
sure.
it in an organized way. But that's such a great point. And I know you said this wasn't a political podcast, but surprisingly, I recently had a candidate who was running for Congress in East Tennessee,
Interesting.
Michaela Bennett. And that's one of the reasons why this is an independent podcast. I want to be able to say, hey, there's 1.3 million of us. What if half of us found a day to go down? Half of us. I mean, what is that? 200,000, 550,000 folks walk
Yep.
down to DC and say, look, we are all AmeriCorps alums and we are all still leaders in our communities. We're taxpayers, we're community members, we're coaches, we're teachers, we're doctors. We're entrepreneurs, we work in corporate social responsibility. We do all these things. And we're doing this, and we're doing this well because of our service year. And this amazing podcast has over 115 stories of AmeriCorps alums who started to do this work because of their service. If that we could just get them to hear us. And I do believe that there is a very strong nonpartisan support for the AmeriCorps agency. However, the funding continues to get cut. And every year we're on the chopping block. And every year somebody comes in and says, what's the return on investment? And I understand that an audit is necessary. However, we need to understand that we need to start surveying those alums.
Yeah.
What's the return on investment? What if you pulled together all of our salaries and said one service year, which is a VISTA? I think VISTAs get paid maybe 14,000, maybe 16,000, maybe 20, I don't know, a year to do a service year. And you found the mean medium and the return on investment, and then you take their taxes and you say that person went through a service year and now they're giving back in this way. If you want to dollar and cents it, then let's dollar and cents it that way. But I agree with you so much that it's so disheartening when you see a member doing that work and you want to get behind them as a program officer, and you want to support them, and you want to shield them from, don't look behind the curtain, just continue to do work and take your growth year. So sorry I went off on a tangent, but I couldn't agree with you more that once you start raising through the ranks a little bit in this national service landscape, it can be like, wait, what? There's people that don't want this program? I don't know. That's hard to hear.
No, for sure. It's really tough. And yeah, again, I've been fortunate enough to do AmeriCorps in 3 different locales, well, 2 different locales, and one ended up being virtual, as I mentioned. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like similarities across different locales, and every city, I think every summer we're having the same discussion about what are youth going to do? Do we have things for them to do? I mean, they should be doing AmeriCorps. They should be engaged in something in their community. They should be doing other, Peace Corps, other different like programs to keep them engaged, give them that resume building material, identity capital, however you want to call it. And there shouldn't really be a question about what they might want to spend that time doing for the summer outside of school. As you mentioned, same thing with retirees and older folks in our community. They shouldn't be forgotten about. They should be included in all the things that we're moving and, having moved and having discussions about. To me, it just seems like an easy fix. And whether it has to be mandatory or not, that's a different discussion for a different day. But I think there's certainly a lot of opportunity that goes unlooked into, just in terms of just having to be able to connecting people with different ways in which to kind of stay connected to that community, but also give them some skills, come back to that community and say, I know I can do A, B, and C. I can teach someone else to do A, B, and C. And one hand wash the other, and now our community all uplifted and all being supported and benefited from.
Something you just said that sparked a thought in my brain. In middle school and high school, public schools, counselors, there's college readiness programs, there's college readiness classes. I don't necessarily agree with making national service mandatory. I feel like it could take away that transformational aspect of it, because I don't know about me, about you, or other people that are listening, but if anybody makes me have to do something, I automatically don't want to do it. I don't know about that. I know that we've had a couple people on the podcast that have done extensive research on it. But what if we included in our public schools and charter schools and just rearing from middle school to high school, service experience readiness? Yes, you'd want to go to college. Guess what? If you want to take this growth year, you can learn a little bit about your community. You could serve in a different state if you're at a high school or at a college, you're not quite sure what you want to do. And you can take a year to earn a little bit of money. Like you said, get an education award. And if you don't mind me saying it, that's based off the Pell Grant. If you had 2 of those, that's almost $14,000 that you had towards school. And then if you, like you said, that school matches that, folks, this is how we can get people into the higher education system. And
Exactly.
I don't know. I just thought about that. I was like, oh, what if we did national service readiness programs? Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I think we have a lot of experience between the 2 of us with national service. I think we can definitely implement it. And again, I think high school and K through 12 in general. and I've worked in that space, again, served in that space right through AmeriCorps in Delaware, with Great Oaks Charter School and some other places. And I think even Job Corps, right, has technically a trade program, but they're doing some high school stuff, some high school credit recovery. It seems to me like an easy way to implement and mirror and then solve a lot of problems at one fell swoop. If there, there's again, I still feel there's not a lot of people even know about AmeriCorps, right? So I
Right.
think just that it furthering exposure, that furthering accessibility, and looking at the demographics as well. There's some seems to be not as many people demographically, depending upon where you're coming from, who know about it as well. So I think that would be a big benefit for sure.
Yeah. I want to be mindful of your time. We're coming up on an hour, but I also know, and just let me know if you want to speak to this or we could just not. You also have a resource hub that you organize that's outside of your 9 to 5. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's accurate. Yeah, so I am in a space where I'm able to connect with the community here in Milwaukee, and I do some stuff around youth and young adults and engage in the community, and basically help to run and operate a resource center. And we essentially do a lot of different things, but most of what we do is help to mitigate youth, young adults experiencing homelessness, to connect them with different resources, community partnerships, things of that nature. So, yeah, I've been really fortunate in my whole career, but especially even more recently with the move to Milwaukee, and I was not sure about how it was going to go. Also, in the in between time, became a dad for the first time. So, yeah,
Nice.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just a lot of moving and grooving. And again, I think AmeriCorps definitely prepared me in a lot of ways for like all the things that were to come, would be to come.
That's so great. I want to just ask you one question. So you're the oldest of 8. So did any of your siblings do national service? Do we need to have them on the podcast? Is it a
No,
family
okay.
thing?
I've tried to kind of push them towards it. They did not seem to want to do it, unfortunately. But I tell them every day they missed out. They missed out. I have a lot
Yeah.
of good friends, and I've met people who've met their husband and wives, through AmeriCorps and different things. It's really like its own kind of social bubble, community in that way. So, but definitely told them about it. So definitely feel like they should have done it, but ended up not doing it.
Well, you're in good company because my kids did anything but national service. I was like, if you don't know what to do, you can just do national service. You finish it.
Yeah.
You could, it was during COVID. I was like, sign up for a national service
Yeah.
year. And my son was like, no, you say AmeriCorps 1,500 times a day. I'm like, okay, sorry. As we wrap up here, is there anything that I didn't ask you or anything that we didn't cover that you want to make sure the audience leaves with?
Yeah, I don't think so, Nick. I think I'm getting great to talk to you. I know we've been kind of in each other's like sphere of influence for quite some time, and just wanted to send my thanks and gratefulness towards you because again, this is a great podcast. Great platform that you have to push the virtues and to extol the virtues of medical service and the national service in general. And also wanted to also thank you for you came on and talked to my program, right? The members of my program, so I appreciate that as well. Wanted to say thank you for that as well, but. Yeah, anything I can do to push the network and keep the ball rolling for national service, please let me know. I definitely want to, keep that in mind as I still matriculate through my own professional and personal growth.
That's awesome. And that's what we do, folks. Once you become an AmeriCorps alum, you're part of the family and we're going to open doors for you. So Tavon, thank you so much for joining us for another AmeriCorps Connections podcast. And I will be back with another alum talking about amazing things that they do, how they're still getting things done. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining the AmeriCorps Connections podcast. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe. It really makes a difference in the podcast algorithms. So, if you like this content and you want it to continue, I just need you to hit subscribe and share it. So, everybody,